Okay.
Hey.
Hi, here we are. We were just
Uh,
saying that uh Quentin's got a new computer. I'm in a new space. We got all kinds of new stuff to talk about today. We both had some pretty big changes since we last recorded. It's pretty
yeah,
exciting.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. This computer's like big and strong, it's better than like my last one, but I don't know like I don't know how the camera is gonna be and it's a season to try new things and anyways, it's just nothing's like seeing you again, I mean, I said it off camera, I'll say it again, like, oh, Radha looks beautiful. Oh my goodness.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm just so happy to talk to you again. I needed my teacher in my life, it's been a minute since we've talked and I
Yes.
don't regret it, but so I don't know. What's new with you?
Yeah, so I'll start with why it's been a minute since we talked. So, Dee and I made a little bit of a move. At least for the winter, basketball season is starting up. For those of you who don't know, Dee is a women's college basketball official. So we kind of travel around and we got to settle into one place for basketball season. So this year we decided to settle in Myrtle Beach. So we are in our new little studio apartment in Myrtle Beach. It's
Mm,
really fun. I'm here with my niece and my great nieces, two of them, and my great nephew. It's really fun. One of my great nieces is 20 and the other one is 5 months old. So super fun. We're having a great time. Henson is having a wonderful time. My niece runs a safari down here. And so there's all kinds of crazy animals. I think I've talked about them before on the podcast. So there is a lemur in particular that Henson, my service animal, is totally in love with. So we go over and visit my niece and Henson gets to see his lemur buddy. So it's fun. It's really relaxing. I had no idea how much I needed kind of a change of scenery, to just really get some perspective and, yeah, just to kind of take a deep breath of fresh air. We are on the Intracoastal Waterway, so I get to go out every morning and have my coffee right there on the water. It's beautiful. The weather is really nice here. It is snowing in New York and quite cold in Virginia, and it's like 70 degrees here. So
no
I have to
complaints.
say I'm really
Oh,
liking it this year.
mm,
Yeah, so
yeah,
that's why we weren't able to record because Dee and I were kind of like in transit. Um, and of course, Quentin's schedule changed,
yeah.
which we'll talk about next. So in order for us to match up our recording schedules again, it just took us a couple weeks to adjust, but I think we're back on track now, so it's all good. So
I think
I'm gonna
so.
hand it over to you so you can share your
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah, so, well, first I just want to say I'm really happy for that move. Like Myrtle Beach to me is like a special place in my heart because we went there for beach week, our like high school like week long or however long it was, like extravaganza. So I always associate Myrtle Beach with like a ton of freedom and definitely a change of perspective, like and also just like a place to bond too with others and that are like, in that mindset, it kinda has, like, an island style, like, mindset even though it's in the middle of the South. So,
Yeah, it's a
I r
funny place.
it is, and people wanna have fun, and,
Fourth fastest growing city in the US right now.
I mean, it makes sense. No one wants to be I don't even know how New York got as big as it was, it's too cold, but, I mean, yeah, like, Myrtle Beach is gigantic, and anyways, I'm just really happy for you and for your new beginnings,
Thank
and,
you.
but yeah, so I sort of mentioned before, like early on in the episodes that like, I'm primarily teaching, but like, still looking for jobs here and there. And so I got one sort of on a whim, like just kind of
Hey,
walking down the street with my buddy, and I was like, look at that place, like that looks kind of cool. And
wow.
I applied to them, and then like pretty much the following day, like, later I think even later on that day, they might have reached back out. But, that it was a Wednesday, I think, or Tuesday or Wednesday, and then on Friday, I had an interview, and, they tried to, like, hire me sooner, but my references didn't respond back until November, like, early November. So yeah, it's been like 2 weeks, 2 full weeks now. This is Saturday, so um, it's more than what I could have ever asked for. I really do make it a point to not, make money the top priority. Like that was what I was kind of like screaming from the rooftops forever. It's like you'll have the amount of money you need. You just have to chase like or if you are chasing something, like, do what's fulfilling for you. And so yeah, so now I'm in design. I'm like a civil engineer designer, and I went to school for civil engineering, and I like focused in like construction and design and like structural design. And so like even my senior year was always like a toss up, like what I wanted to do. And I remember the conversation I had with one of my buddies really early on, and I was like, I think I want to do. I was a landscaper at the time. I was like, I like how I'm a landscaper now because I get to see like the finished products of things that get built like many years past and see how like what happened when they designed the house, how that could impact like some kid today cutting the grass or like doing the mulch or whatever. And then I was like, well, now I want to be in construction. That seems like more adult, but I eventually want to go into design. So that's what ended up happening. And
Yay.
no one else there has a construction background. There's only
Wow.
15 people in the company, and the owner is like 41, and he started it in 2020. And
Wow.
he's like really the only other like I don't even want to say it like that. That might come out wrong, but he is probably the most positive person I've ever seen. He's the type of boss where when he comes around, people loosen up and laugh and like have a good time, and when he's not around, people work hard. We don't forget what he asks us to do. He doesn't have to worry about reiterating. Like he's just like he leads by example and through positive energy. And yeah, he's just a really good guy. So yeah, so it's been like a fun little ride, and yeah, it's definitely give me a different perspective. Probably more so like it's literally giving me a different perspective. Like I was a contractor, and now I'm getting to see like, oh, you guys do this because of this. Like you're thinking about this, and it's just giving me a whole different way to view the world. And especially with like what I'm trying to do in the world, it's like obviously like such a critical step in that direction. In like Colorado, and in so many Colorado is such like Denver specifically, I could say the Front Range is such like a special unique place to be in civil engineering. Um yeah, because you kind of get like the flat plane, you get the both extremes of terrain right there. If you're doing anything east, you're going to be like, flat. If you're doing anything west, you're going to be in like crazy mountainous range. And that's like not necessarily true in Virginia in the same type
Oh,
of way. Um, and on top of that, just to end it, it's like most of the people that I work with went to Virginia Tech, like especially like the leadership. He went to Virginia Tech, a lot of the project managers did, and it's either
that's so
Virginia
great.
Tech or Colorado. And so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Wow. Congratulations. That's so fun. It's really I love that you waited. Like there were some uncomfortable moments where it was really challenging to hang in there and not panic and get a little desperate because that's what, that fear factor starts to kick in and we start to think, "Oh my God, I'm not being taken care of. The universe doesn't have my back. I'm not going to make it." And I'm so proud of you really for like hanging in there and being like, "You know what? The right thing is going to happen." And then there you were walking down the street and the opportunity was there. And of course, then you also acted on it. You said, "You know what? I'm just going to go in and do this because this looks cool." And for you to land in a place that really is full of people who support you in being you is just such a joy to hear. I'm so happy about that.
Hmm.
Yay.
Thank you. Oh my
Yay.
goodness. It's funny, like, it's still Scorpio season, so, all of it, what I love about life is um actually let me pause. One of the like, well, I don't know if I told the story, like one of the first things that we talked about when I first met when I after like we met in New York and then I stayed at her place, um we like one of the synchronicities that occurred was like we're listening to Bob Marley. Like I usually listen to Bob Marley, but we're listening to a specific song, And
Yes.
as we pulled in, we're listening to the song, turned it off, whatever. And then as soon as we got inside of Radha's house, the first song she played on the record she had was that same song. So the first topic we really talked about was like Bob Marley and life, and then we talked about Rita Marley. And I was like, I like rawness, like in general. Like most of my friends, you'll see that's like a commonality. I like flexing and rawness. Like I like excellence, and I'm like, you obviously exude excellence. And then also like, so then on top of that, I was like, I wonder how real she is, like how real she's willing to be. And so anyways, in that book, it was sort of about how like the complexities of their relationship,
Yeah.
and how like, she had mixed feelings about his fame, and she had, like there was like tension there. And then obviously they weren't like really together the full time. And if you saw the movie, there was like even elements of that. And so like I often think about that in my own life. Like there's always been like friction in my life my like between what I think I can do and what others around me think I can do, or how I
Mm.
perceive myself and how others perceive me, right? I think this is a common thing that we all do have in our own way. And um I was just thinking about like what are like I like to be detailed. So I'm like, what are the different like elements of this? Like, there might be a difference in um role modeling, right? Like, I have different role models than say like the people in my life might have, or a preference in what attributes you want to like cultivate. Like what attributes in a person or in your personality do you feel like you really want to exude over others? Things like this. So I was like, I might not have panicked much, but like certainly my mom might, her mom, her dad, so I'm talking about my wife, and also like just kind of thinking to yourself like, okay, you might have like your own internal like mission that you might be on, or you might have your own principles, but how those principles impact others around you, you have to be very aware of them, and honestly love them. I think I've learned to realize over the time. But it takes a long time, and then not in every moment do you like love that. And like um I've been trying to listen to more like older men, more like father figures. My dad passed away, but just more father figures that are married and love being married, and
Yeah.
are just kind of talking about like, okay, what does it really mean? Like, all these people, most of these people that I'm talking about, like have gone through like moments of poverty, or had to like do a leap of faith, or things like that. And I even sent you like some stuff from Young Thug uh
Yeah.
a while back, like, or gone to jail, or learn, all these men that were heads of households in their own
Hmm.
particular way, and try to like live like that, and try to like what are the lessons that they learned about throughout their lifetime. And the one that really stuck with me, I mentioned Nick Fuentes before because he's been being talked about a lot. Like anybody that's in politics that is popular, I try to pay attention to, because I think, any guy who has power over me, like I need to know what they're thinking. Like that's just like my general thought process. Or any guy that
Yeah.
might be influential in that scene, I think it's important to know how they think. Just I don't know. This is how I am. So I mentioned it before because people have been talking about the rise in anti-Semitism, and
Hmm.
obviously like the political tension that's in the country, and all these sorts of things. And so I had heard about them, but I don't really watch people's shows, like their own shows. I just try to see like interviews that might be really popular that people like to make clips of. So one of them was it was Nick Fuentes and Dave Smith, which was one guy I mentioned before who's like a libertarian Jewish guy from New York. He's like in his early 40s. And then the other one that I saw him do was with this guy Tucker Carlson that many people know. And
Yes.
they're both married men, and they both are like Dave's more libertarian, but I guess you could say like in modern times that's more seen as conservative. And like obviously Tucker Carlson is like conservative, like Republican conservative. If there's a little bit of a difference for sure. But Anyways, so I know a lot, and I'm also thinking about a lot of my friends too. Like, I'm married. Not many of my friends are married. Like, very like few of them are. Some have kids. I don't have a child. I do have Kimmy, but I don't have a child in the same way. But so I was just kind of thinking, like, to me, like, I'm just kind of curious. I don't know, and I don't really play video games. A lot of dudes play video games. I don't really sports gamble. A lot of dudes play sports gamble. So Nick's audience, I guess you could say, is like stereotypically his audience is considered like young white dudes who fall in those categories, play video games, and he's sort of like he's very articulate when you hear him speak. But anyway, so he's talking to Tucker, who's like country dude, like doesn't even really have a phone, like has like kids and dogs and lives in Maine somewhere, and an OG, like a older man that's been married for a while. And there's one thing that he said that I thought was very helpful, in my own life, and just in general when it comes to friction, is he's like, when Nick was kind of like, he wasn't trying to be disrespectful towards women, but he was explaining why like the modern woman might not be attractive to men, how modern like women, like especially white women, don't like white men, and
Mm-hmm.
how like, you know so he's like, to me, white like women don't like us. So he's like, what do you want us to do? Like you, like. And then that was kind of his general point of view. And
Who was he saying they like? He liked.
no, he's saying in general, most white women don't like conservative white men. That's for sure.
Right.
And
So who do
then also,
conservative white men like? Who do they want to be with? Do they want to be with white women?
he's saying he wants to be with. Well, this is the whole point. This is the texture of the conversation. This is why I love it, because it's such a great conversation. Because obviously Tucker Carlson's conservative, so he's trying to say he's try the whole general crux of the conversation is like, we as a people don't have, like, our gender roles and our gender identities have been tossed up in the air. And like, so if you're like, and this is what I think we've been talking about this a lot, where it's like, you know if you're a young man and you're thinking about like what you were taught to be, what it meant to be a man when you were younger, is like to do these certain things. And then now all of a sudden, now that you're 20 or 22, it's like, oh, that doesn't matter anymore. Like, we don't need that from you anymore, or you don't bring much value to the table. And what I will say is that, like, there is obviously a culture, I think, across every generation, of like, men ain't shit, dudes aren't this, like my type of, like, the guys in my community, like, I don't like them. That's why I'm over here in this different place. Like, there has like sort of been that thing, but I do feel like he's like the pinnacle of that energy, and he's articulating this position, which he's like, if everywhere you go, if everywhere you go, all the girls around you that are beautiful, that you think is attractive, like, your attraction to women is not voluntary. Like, you didn't choose to be attracted to brunettes, like, or whatever it is. Like, it just is what it is. So he's saying our natural attraction to women is involuntary. They don't like us because of the culture, like because of the cultural rhetoric around what it means to be a white man. But these are white boys that were just born in the 2000s. They're being lumped in with guys that are, in your grandfather's generation. So his point of view is that, and I'm saying that I've seen this a lot, where there's like, if a guy gets, you've seen this in your generation too, but it's like, if a guy gets rejected, like, his feelings are crushed. And then it's like, but when it's social media magnifying it by 1,000, where it's like, dudes are icky if they don't have enough money to pay for the first 10 dates and this and that. Like, he's trying to articulate like all that pressure that's mounted through social media, in addition, that can generate a lot of self-loathing in conservative white men who didn't choose to be born where they were born, and didn't choose to have the role models that they had, or the thought process that they were enveloped in. So that's the point he's trying to make. And then so Tucker is articulating like against this point, and he's saying like, you just this all sounds like you need to have women in your life, like. And this is the point that he made. He goes that what you're trying to say is sort of like, you want women to just kind of like bend the knee. Like, you think women are meant to bend the knee to the man, and that like the story, like these heroes that get like quote unquote like betrayed by women, it's by their wives who don't don't like bend the knee. And Tucker's like, that is so ridiculous. He's like, you do not want your wife to be all up in your business. You need someone in your life who's gonna be like, shut up. Like, I've seen you poop. Like, you need someone in your life to humble you. He's like, and his point, he's like, what destroys all great men? Hubris. Like thinking you're better than everyone. Like you can have your men that like these guys out here like think that you're tough. Like I approve of that. But you do not need your kids, your everyone in your life to think that you're like the pinnacle of existence. Um and I really enjoyed that. And he's like, I know it's annoying, it's an irritant in the same way that sand is an irritant in a clam. But like that irritated marriage where it's like there's like a block in communication where you feel like that feeling of like, I'm not being appreciated for my vision. I'm not being appreciated for my hard work. Like these general things that we all say, like it's actually over time meant to mature you, pull you upward, and drive you to be a more complex and more thorough, more eloquent man. This man that you like think that like that role model man that you think that you're supposed to become, it doesn't become it you can't do that without that friction. Um so that's what I've been thinking about a little bit is that like yeah, you're talking about like friction from the world, but it's like the friction that I feel from my mother or my wife is 100 times
Mhm.
more than any type of external friction. And then the friction
Yeah.
that I might put on my own self, like the shame that I might put on my own self, is even worse than that. So those
I
are some
also
of the
just
things I was thinking
really
about.
wonder at somebody who does not want that friction, like somebody who is not looking forward to, because the most interesting women in the world are powerful, right? Women are very powerful.
Hmm.
And so if you want somebody who's interesting, who's beautiful both inside and out,
Hmm.
then she's going to have opinions and she's going to have ideas and she's going to say things that you're not necessarily going to like to hear, and vice versa. I don't want a man who's just going to be like, "Oh, you're so wonderful all the time." No, I want somebody who's going to be like, "Radha, get it together." Yeah, you're not living up to what I see. I really think like this. I mean, I feel for them. I feel for these white men that are for the first time in history feeling the pinch of their whiteness and their maleness. And suddenly that's not the coolest, greatest, most powerful, wonderful person to be is a white male. And so I understand why that's really uncomfortable and why they're complaining and why it feels like a great crisis to them. But I also want to say, like, wham, motherfucking wham, like, stop crying. The rest of us have been putting up with this for a really long time. Like, women have been putting up with such bullshit for so long. People of color have been putting up with such horrors. Just this morning, I saw something where they were like, let's celebrate the first Black woman who integrated into a white school. She's 71. 71, people. Come on. Like this woman who's 71 when she was a little girl was the first person to ever go to school with white people. So I understand everybody's pain is their pain. And I don't mean to discredit people's pain because their experience is their experience. And so we're never going to get anywhere if we just say, your experience isn't as bad as my experience, because their perception of their pain and their perception of what's harming them is great. And a little self-awareness would make you realize, hey, this is just the evening out of the playing field. It's just like white people having to look at white privilege for the first time, myself included. Like, I never thought about white privilege. It never even occurred to me until it really started. I started seeing it more in my life, maybe a little bit earlier than some people did, but really seeing like, wow, it is just um, this that gives me some sort of benefit over other people. I read this also. I gotta find the name of this book. I read this book that was so fascinating that really made me aware of this, not particularly about white privilege, but it was about beauty and how we have an intense class system in this country regarding beauty, and how when you're perceived as beautiful, the whole world treats you better. You have more opportunities, doors are opened for you, things happen because you are some sort of classic sense of beautiful. And it really made me start to look at the ways in which um, I was unconsciously and irresponsibly wielding the power of beauty in my life. I just thought like it was not a big deal that people gave me stuff all the time. I was like, I get free stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And I'll go into like a store and like men would just do stuff for me. Like men just would constantly be doing stuff for me. They would buy me drinks, they'd buy me dinners, they'd give me
Mm,
gifts, they'd write me poems, there's all this stuff that was just showered upon me that had nothing to do with my intelligence, my value, my worth. It just had to do with the luck of how my features rearranged themselves at birth and my genetics and how they put my face together. Right? That was not something I accomplished or I worked on. Now, my inner beauty, I can take total credit for that, right? And part of that was
mm,
my inner beauty, right? Obviously, we've all met people who are physically beautiful on the outside and are really not attractive because you're like, ugh, that person is really kind of ugly in
mm,
the sense of like they are not a beautiful person, even though
absolutely.
physically they might be really beautiful. So I'll take credit for that. But a lot of that didn't have to do with that. It just had to do with the fact that like my features were rearranged in a nice way. And
Right.
so I felt like, taking any time that you're realizing that you do have privileges over other people, it's important just to be self-aware enough to look at that and witness it and say, hey, you know, I should at least be aware of the fact that I walk through life with doors opening to me and things happening for me that are not happening for other people simply because of the way that I look, the color of my skin, the level of attractiveness, um, whatever it is. I mean,
Mm,
and it happens in a lot of cultures, right? I mean, like there was a whole thing of like people looking more white or passing that allowed them more privileges than people who perhaps couldn't pass. Again, with the weird false belief that whiteness was somehow more attractive, which what I'm hearing also now is for the first time, whiteness is not the most attractive thing. So there's
yeah.
a lot of women who are like, you know what? Your whiteness is no longer attractive. I'm looking for somebody who has beautiful chocolate skin. I'm looking for somebody who has some foreign background. I mean, I've said before, like, I really like dating men who were not American throughout most of my life because in their cultures, they were used to powerful women. They were used to women speaking their minds. They had moms who were, these matriarchs of their families, and that was really built
Yep.
in their culture. So they were fine with me being really powerful and outspoken and all the things. So, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, no, I mean, so I think it's such a nuanced conversation that I want to like kind of get into because, like I said before, I pay attention to politics. Politics is really who gets to control the gun. The gun is called the nuclear warhead, right?
Mm.
But what people get to control that? I, you know, I, you know, these are fighting words. Like you're taking our women. These are like this is as old as time. You know what I mean? So like
Mhm.
when our country is already so divided and this needs to be looked at because as a black man, and I think a lot of black men we think like this. Like we know white boys. They're not domicile. Like they're not gonna be like, oh yeah, like this is okay. Like I don't really look at the world like that. And I think that you're seeing
Just
that
getting
in a
the idea.
little
I'm
bit.
sorry. I got to interrupt. Taking our women
Yeah, 100%.
right there, like we're their property that can be taken, that we
Yeah,
don't have the right to decide for ourselves what we want to do. That is the crux of this mentality that is like,
yeah.
hello, women are not property. We're not
Hmm.
property. Although up until, even into the 90s, we were considered property still in many ways. And still, women, there's no equality whatsoever with women and men in society. Not even close. We've come a long way, but there is definitely not even the remotest belief that we are equal. And this kind of mentality is just an example that someone would even say, taking our women.
Well, I don't know if he said
I
it that
guarantee you
way.
he said, like it is,
I mean,
because I'm not
but you
this guy said it, but I've heard it many
yeah, yeah,
times,
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
"They're taking our women."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Henson. So, so, so that's what I want to deal with the world realistically, where it's like the so Scorpio is about like what are those like subconscious things that are driving us? What are the and they're not. I don't I don't think that like as a black person, when I say like I'll say our women in the sense of you're raised in the culture that says like this is your clan. We have a clan. Like to me, my women is like this. All the homegirls that grew up in Stafford, wherever y'all from, your families, all the ones that went to my middle school, my elementary school, middle school, high school, college, y'all are in my clan. Plus my actual family. Plus my mom telling me, like my mom was like, "You are black. You were born a black man. Like these are these." I was actually thinking about this the other day. When you see a black person and a white person in trouble and you see them like arguing, you should side with the black person. In the sense of not side with them like jump in, but just be like, "Are you okay? Like is everything okay?" Check on them. Like if you see like a young black man out there like that's you know I'm from Stafford. If you know what Stafford looks like, then you know what I mean. But like Stafford, Fredericksburg, um Spotsylvania, you know, they sound like how they look like how they sound, right? Very wooded, rural places in the most part, and then suburbs, and every now and then. So she was always like, "This is your clan." Like, so I naturally developed a preference. So what I'm saying is,
Yeah, but
Nick,
also
in this,
what you're saying is this is your clan, Quentin. You're not specifying women. You're saying these people are my
yeah,
clan.
yeah,
You're not saying these women are my women.
no, 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 yeah,
What
exactly,
they're
exactly.
saying is these women are my women. They're not saying you're taking my buds. You're not taking my best friend. They're not concerned about that. They're concerned that you're taking their women, which is that's the problem with the mentality.
Well,
Like, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I think, yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, and I think the idea is like I don't necessarily, I don't do want to say this. It's like, I'm not like him, but what I can think out loud is, okay, if I was playing chess with this person, like how would I best respond to the moves? How do I best respond with the direct like claim that you're making and make a claim that's counter to that claim um in a productive way, right? Because and this is what Tucker did. It's like you can't tell a young kid like, bro, get over it. He was very compassionate and he took his time. And I think most people want these people to respond like angrily. Like, no, that is not how you handle these sensitive topics. Like, he's not dumb. This is not a dumb argument. He's like, I was raised in Chicago. We were 90 where I was from in Chicago, our neighborhood was 95% white. Sorry, I'm gonna take it. Um, see this camera's moving around. My,
Camera
and
is,
I
it's
remember
kind of
thinking,
zooming
I
in and
remember,
out. It's cool.
and I remember just like kind of thinking back also about Nana and my mom, and I'm like, okay, they grew up in areas that were 95% black, and they had things that they said about white kids, for example. And if you're from, and I already, and this is the thing, since you don't play video games, this is like an acute topic. Those of us that play video games know how racist most of everything is. Like, especially like when I was a kid. I don't, it's probably still close to it. Maybe it's a little bit more taboo, but like these like all races of people, like not just like Americans. Like you'd hear people in like thick like Eastern European accents, like and we're this and we're that, like screw this, like what we consider like sexist today is like a mosquito bite. Like even what we consider racist today, what we consider anti-Semitic, all that stuff is like so little compared to like what I was hearing at 12 and 13 and 14 every single night playing Halo in that warlike setting like I was talking about. Like so what I'm saying is these are the thoughts that I have. Like I never got like
Have,
fooled by the main
Quentin, have
topic
you watched
media.
the 80s movie?
What's that?
Have you watched an 80s movie?
Yeah, exactly.
You wanna
Exactly.
talk about some racism and some
Yeah,
misogyny, just watch movies from the '80s. I mean,
100%.
we've come a long way.
Well, that's what I'm kinda trying to say is, like, I don't know exactly what that really means because here this kid is who has a larger audience than any liberal kid his age, right? He has a larger he's more influential. The party that he supports is running the country. So I don't really think it's this like it's a little bit different. And especially because like I'm saying like these are kids that still game. Like a lot of these guys game all the time. That's how they have their friendships and their relationships. I didn't get into porn. We'll have to get into that in a little bit, but that obviously plays a really big role into not having women in your life. And but anyways, so like, yeah, like, these are dudes that are playing Call of Duty all night and like, that are not comfortable with the way that society feels about them. Like I was born in an era where when I was a little kid, like when I was real little, like being a black man was probably like the worst luck of the draw because you could say a black woman, but black women were less likely to die, right? Like black men were more likely to die in violence or go to jail. So like yeah, there's you could say the women, but still like the actual physical lifestyle of a black man was when I was a kid, it was the worst. Like that was what the narrative was. So like for me, my entire life was like I'm gonna prove the opposite of that. Like I already want to because my dad is from a higher generation. He's from the 40s. And so he's not like that and he's very high-minded and both my parents were grown. So I didn't really have like that many I didn't have that influence. But I remember thinking to myself like even when I first started hearing white privilege like I went to school in Stafford that was like I think it was like 55% white and it was like maybe like 20 some percent black, maybe like 15% Hispanic, and like other Asian, Middle Eastern kind of mix in there. And you know, I remember this. This is actually what I remember. So I remember a couple of different things. I remember one of my friends. I was like in AP classes in my later years, so I was like in like smarter classes, right? So I remember one of my friends came up to me and he was like, we were having a conversation, him and like his friends, like the white friends, I guess you could say. And we didn't even talk like this or think like this at that time. Like this isn't how it was, but like this is if you were to like look at it through that lens now, this is how you could describe it. So I do want to give him that credit. But he was like, we were talking. He's like, this kid David Wilcox are like the smartest black kids in this school, right? And I don't know why that stood out to me so strongly, even still to this day. I was like, huh, that's interesting. And then, then I remember thinking, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna put that there. That might come up as being relevant later. And then we had another conversation. Sorry, no, not another conversation, but in my school, it was like we grew up where it was like it was always cool to be black, like as in my scene, like my sophomore, junior, senior year, it was like white girls like black guys. And I don't know how much of it was because of like, the color of our skin, but it was like, black guys are athletes. Like stereotypically girls like athletes, like since beginningless time, like less than smart guys or even like really rich guys. They like athletes, especially at that age. And I remember thinking to myself, and then at the same time, like all of our class presidents were black. Like half of them were black women or a black man. The vice president, the prom king, the homecoming king, like these were all black men. And even in a school that had the majority white kids, you could say like statistically speaking, were excelling, or whatever in school. But it definitely felt like, we're talking about privileges, like yeah, if you're like a handsome black man who's an athlete, like, you know, that might be one of the like the most like awesome things. And so I do like believe in white privilege, but I don't want to hype it up. I was actually listening to this one. I was listening to this one these like black dudes in Africa. I mean, not in Africa, in Russia. And there's like a dreaded guy, like natural living. He's getting me hype already, and he's like anywhere you put a black person will thrive. He's like we can be stolen, we'll thrive, we'll conquer that place. He's like, we're in Russia, like you cannot become there's no birth citizenship in Russia, right? So you're there, like you can't really have like a permanent black state, like in a way. But he's like, every room he's walked into, he said he's felt high, the most high there. And so I do want to say that like I know that there is this like I don't want people to get too caught up in privileges. Like it has
Well,
been a hot topic.
I just want to say, yeah, I love what you're saying too, because
Yeah.
even white privilege is also a symptom of whiteness.
Mm.
You know, like, oh, we have privilege because we're white.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. Literally, what are these
we're
privileges that
better
you
than
think are?
everybody else, right? It's
Yeah,
like, so you don't want to fall into that trap. I think like privilege is privilege. There are privileged people all over the place. That's why I was trying to say, like, you should be aware
yeah.
of your privilege no matter what it is and be mindful of it. But it's just like so white to be like white privilege. You know,
Yeah, literally, literally. And you know who says that the most?
we're
I'm
still
in
the
Denver.
best.
I'm in Denver, right? Everyone here is white, and all the white guys are talking about white privilege with each other. They're like, you know what that is? It's white privilege. And I'm just like sitting there, like, and it's just like, no, you just don't like their attitude. I'm like, you just don't like that person's approach to this conversation. Like, y'all are all white here, like, and so I just think I do appreciate. I do realize that people do have racial arguments and they can't be ignored or discarded. We do have base primitive arguments that like they can't be discarded because we're all at different levels of maturity. When I was reading like the Bhagavad Gita, and I think this is like the depth in Krishna's approach to speaking to Arjuna is that he doesn't just go to like high-minded, we are all one, we're all human beings. He goes, you're a warrior. People are gonna judge you. You're from this family. You're gonna let them down. Like he's going through every step of it, and he says, this is why, from a materialist point of view, you should do what's right. This is why, from this point of view, it's like you have to be able to articulate it on every level. And what I would say to anyone who feels like more close to their European roots than they do to their American roots, like remember when the Europeans came here and when the African slaves came here, we created a new race of people when we mixed with Native Americans. Like this is a different type of people that has never existed. Like, I think so much we get so caught up in like, and Scorpio's also about this, like past trauma, like, oh, what happened? All like what happened? Like you're reaping the rewards of your group karma that happened X amount of many years ago, like, you know. And then so the question is like, how do we handle that suffering that's happening right now, like as yogis or just as anybody that's listening to this? Like, I try not to add on to it, like if I can, like my dad didn't, he could have. Um, you know, his brothers tried not to, you know, and they grew up in the South. The New Yorkers or the other folks that, grew up, and I also realize cities too. The cities are very like segregated too, and on like the poverty level. So there's also a lot of racialism there too. But I think I just want to try to continue that tone of being like, let's like turn the let's address the racial conflicts directly, not fearfully. Don't censor. Don't run away from any type of conversation. You don't like Mexicans? Why? Let's talk about it. I'm cool with it. I like Mexicans. I'll tell you all day the reasons why. I don't have a problem defending that. It doesn't hurt my feelings. You don't like gays. You don't like trans. You don't like this. You don't like that. We don't need to
Muslims.
approach any of these types of things with like censorship or with anger. Like it all has to be approached with like that cool, calm, and collect. Like let's talk it out. Like you're a dude just like me, and we can come to I think like we can come to an ends that will like, make it better for all of us. But I've seen a lot of energy in the opposite direction and it yeah, just something that's been on my mind.
Oh gosh, so many good things. Woo. First of all, like, it's interesting because you're mentioning the Bhagavad Gita, and one of the things we're talking about is, women and ownership of women. And
Mm,
one of the key things that happens in the Mahabharata, which, if you remember, is like the overarching story in which the Bhagavad Gita lives, you know, Yudhishthira gambles away his wife, not even his wife. The wife, through a crazy set of circumstances, because the Mahabharata is the craziest story
yeah.
ever. It's actually the wife of all five brothers. So all the five brothers have to share this wife. And Yudhishthira gambles her away like she is property because he is
Mm,
losing in his battle of dice with his evil cousin. And so he puts up his wife as like collateral. So, already, even in the Mahabharata, even in these yogic texts, we're recognizing that there are these like ideas of ownership of women and not having equality with women. So these are human conditions. I think they're human things. And so when we're looking at it from a yogic viewpoint, we have two different ways we can look at things. We can look at the non-dualism, right? Like, okay, everything is one. We're all one with the universe. All of it is Maya. None of it is real. It is all, underneath it all is just peace, joy, love, and light. However, the other thing is we're playing a game. And so the Maya is the purpose. Like the purpose is to engage in the game, not just to disengage from the game. But like the whole reason why the game was created, like, Source wants to experience itself. That's why all of this was created. And so if Source wants to experience itself, then it wants to experience itself in all the ups and downs and different nuances and all the different ways it can be experienced. And
Absolutely.
so games, in order to be fun, have to have rules. If there's no rules to a game, it's not a very fun game to play because you don't even know what you're playing. You're just like, it's just chaos and everybody's just doing whatever they want. So we create these rules and these structures in order to make the game more fun. And so part of it is remembering, like, yeah, we are playing a game here. And so, yeah, these things do matter. Treating people with equality, kindness, like we were talking before, like, how do you win the game? How do you win and get to
Yep.
self-realization? Well, there's all these rules that you're going to go along with, and kindness, peace, spreading love and light. Those are ways to kind of win the game. So if you're just going around, killing everybody and creating chaos, that's not going to help you win the game.
Not at all.
So, it's like this dualistic thing that we're aware of. So in the background, we realize, yes, at any moment we can stop and say, oh, remember, it's just a game. I'm getting too involved. I'm getting too wrapped up in it. I'm beginning to think it's real. I'm forgetting that it's a game that we're playing. And
Mm,
so it's important, like that's what they talk about in yoga with the witness. So you have the witness that is
mm,
witnessing everything that's happening. And the witness is not engaged. The witness is just watching. It's just witnessing what's happening. And so you always have the opportunity to step back into the witness and say, okay, I got a little too caught up in the game. Let me remember this is still just a game and I am peace. I am joy. I am light. Like I am one with everything. There is no dualism. It is all one. And that's really important because if you get too involved in the game and you forget it's a game, then you suffer a whole heck of a lot. So the key to like get out of this suffering is, yeah, we can talk about all of these crazy things like women's equality and black equality and,
yeah.
let's have immigration and let's talk about Republicans and Democrats and all the duality and countries and this country's doing that and these people own this and these people have committed these atrocities and I hate these people and we should all be this. And so it's part of the fun of the experience of being human to
Mm,
witness all these things and to try to quote unquote win the game. But also sometimes you can just step out of it and remember it's a game, right? That you don't even have to win in order to access that peace. You can just step back and say, oh, right, this is a game. I'm playing a game. Let me
yeah.
just remember. And I love this story because I always say, like, I like the game a little bit too much sometimes. Like for a yogi, I'm like one of the people who are like, yeah, we're down here to have fun. And there's this great story. I don't know if I've told this one before, but it's one of my favorites where Indra, who is like the god of all gods in Hinduism, uh, I can't remember the exact story, and sorry, I'm gonna miss some of the details, but basically, um, he does something and he accidentally kills a mother pig. And so, or somebody else kills a mother pig. I can't remember how the mother pig was killed. I'm sorry, I'll have to go and address the story. But the mother pig's killed. And Indra, who is the god of gods, has to go down and become the mother pig in order to save these little pig babies that are going to die because their mother was killed. And so Indra
Mm,
says, okay, I'm going to go down and be the mother pig. Well, Indra goes down and he starts really enjoying being the mother pig. He's like,
Yup.
wow, this pig life is so fun. I am totally getting into this pig life. I have my babies and I got my slop and I'm rolling around in the mud and it's so much fun. Well, meanwhile, at the level of the devas or the gods, like everything starts getting really chaotic. The world's starting to fall apart. Like bad
Yup.
things are happening because Indra is no longer there to oversee and guide everybody and make sure everything's going smoothly. And so eventually they have to come and they end up killing the mother pig. Maybe that was it. Maybe the mother pig didn't die. I can't remember why Indra went down to be a mother.
Yeah.
But I know that the mother pig then was killed because they had to kill the mother pig so that Indra would be released and he'd remember that he's Indra, the god of all gods. He's not the mother pig. And so I always love this story because I say, like, sometimes a little like Indra, I can get down here and get really juicy into like the nitty gritty of the mother pig. Like, I'm like, I'm so identifying with all of it. And oh my God, the grief
Mm,
and the trauma and the angst and the political stuff and I want to boycott things and I want to, and I'm going to go travel around the world and I'm going to eat ice cream and I'm going to do all the things that are just so human,
mm,
that are so much fun, that we can really relate to. And sometimes I forget that ultimately I am a spiritual being having a human experience, not the opposite. And so part of the key is just to remember that it's fine. These are all the rules of the game. And so we want to talk about it and we want to analyze it and we want to engage in it and we want to be part of it. But also remember that it's not who we are. It's not really the truth. It's just the game that we're playing.
yeah.
So, I mean, anybody who's played like an immersive game, especially now that they have VR and you are in those glasses and you're playing a game, your body, your mind cannot tell the difference between quote unquote reality and what you're experiencing in those glasses. And so it's just the same as what we're experiencing here. Like we
Yeah.
cannot tell the difference. It feels so real when we're here. We're like, this is it. This is the reality.
Mm,
But it's not. It's just still the game.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Uh, it's so I think I sent you a card. Did I send you a picture of dragon? It was a
Yeah, you
card.
did. Yeah, I think you did last,
Yeah.
like just before we were moving, or when you were like, "Hey, we're gonna miss our
Yeah.
our thing, but I want you to have this card." I'm pretty sure it was dragon, that one. I
Yeah.
mean, wait. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, let's see.
that's the one you sent. Was the dragon card?
Okay. Yeah, that card is like that it calls I like it expands on the witness analogy. So dragon is the witness. So it's almost like imagine if like dragons were real, right? And like, you know, and there were no guns. Like you couldn't kill a dragon. Like a dragon is so above and beyond a human being's capability. So the idea is like the witness is sort of like having like a dragon that you can kind of step on and just travel the world on. And it's sort of like dragons can go through the most difficult terrain and they can just with ease and all like can just easily. I'm thinking of like Game of Thrones right now, just kind of like winding through and like life has like the game is like you're born on this plot of land that has this difficult terrain like it seems and it's like you just have this inclination to have to get from here to there. It's like for whatever reason you want to go across this terrain for whatever reason, and you have this. You don't even notice that you have this like powerful tool right here at your disposal at any moment that you can hop on the back of and just experience everything. And so I was thinking, I mentioned earlier irritants that might and I probably redefine it more so as that it's like we're playing this game, there's an irritant in the game where it's like you're playing this game, it's fun, but then you're like, oh, you don't like this aspect of the game. But then there's also things that keep you in the game, keep you from witnessing, like almost keeping you from your dragon, right?
Mm.
From being able to witness, being able to hop out of the game, I think. So yeah, yeah, I think this is probably be a good time to talk about um like lust, because I think w- this is also a really big element of it where it's like men and women, or just our societies, have always had these tensions, right? And it's um I was reading not reading, I was listening to a podcast about Genghis Khan, and it was sort of like his upbringing. And actually, let me start with Indra. I'll start with Indra in the Ramayana. I've been reading it, and in the Ramayana, Indra was the first being to commit adultery,
Mm,
and essentially, um, you know, Vishnu, or the creator, like the creator of all the gods, like you say, whatever, um, says like, since you set this sin in motion in creation, um, now when every other person commits adultery, like you'll have to bear half the sin. This is the reason why this was important, is because Indra is asking, like, God essentially, like, all letters capital G. I know in Hindu, for those that it's sort of like, if you could use like an analogy for God, it's sort of like if you were to take the planets, the solar, like our solar system, and the sun. God is like the sun. But then when you look at these planets, you see these planets which are also powerful, like, huge in mass and magnitude, but they're still just reflecting the light back to you from the sun. So it's that's how I like to think of it. It's like you're still seeing the sun. When you look at the when you look at the moon, you're seeing sunlight. When you look at Uranus, you're seeing sunlight. Um, anyways, so Indra's like, how did Ravana beat me? How did this, like, essentially mortal demon beat Indra in a battle? Or his son actually did. Ravana's son, another demon, like bound up Indra. And he's like, how could this happen? And he's like, well, over time you got weakened through this, like, collection of sins, so even you could be like taken down. Um, huh. Okay, and then so then you go to Genghis Khan. The way that Genghis Khan came about was, um in ancient Mongolia, like in that area before it expanded, they used to steal women. Um, like the men would come in packs and they would try to take a woman, and that was how he was born. His father had to run away because she was like, "You should just run away. Like if you're here, they're gonna kill you. Like there's enough of them." And when Genghis Khan came into power, he had to stop that. And once he stopped that, he realized, or they realized, that that was why there were so many beefs between all the clans. He's like, because you're, yeah, he's like, because they're like, because it's a justifiable offense, I guess you could say. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and
he's
then are
like,
some of man's favorite property to own.
yeah, well, no, it's not really that. I would say it's more so like, you stole our sister, like you stole my daughter, you stole my. It's not from the relationship point of view. It's from the
But
father.
still, it's ownership.
Well, no, I don't look at it like, I don't think that's what he meant. He's saying like, you guys are raping our women. Like this man was married to this person, and this is what I'm saying. They were married together. It's an act of like, aggression. And he's like, this man was like, oh, okay, this is actually an important piece of context. So in ancient Mongolic culture, women in their culture carried the house. It was like they had like a nomadic lifestyle. So the men
Mm,
would be like horses, and they would like essentially like guard the house, and the woman would be like carrying the carts, like the animals in the carts, right? So they were very obvious, like, that's a girl, that's a cart, that's all, like, that's a house, you know. And so and it's flat in Mongolia. It's like, it's like Denver. It's like, bro, I can see you from over there. So so that's what would happen, is like, that was just what was accepted, is that they would run up on you, um, kill you, and be like, that's a baddie right there. We need more people. She has a whole bunch of materials and she can make children. So boom. So more so like, and then so his mother is like raising him like, I don't like this place. Like, this isn't cool. Like, I know that this is what happens, but so that's why he was so passionate to be like, this cannot be, this cannot happen. And then, that is like, what I'm trying to say is like, all I'm trying to say is that, like, when men are able to control their lust in this way, even in this little micro way, all of a sudden all these clans can now congregate and like group together. When before they were, warring and always in conflict, and have all these problems. And now that that can happen, it's like now Shorty can voluntarily like go over there and like be a part of be a part of that town if she wants to. You don't have to steal her. That's not necessary. And so that's why like that empire had so much mixing and all this kind of stuff. Like obviously some guys were rapists and conquestors, but like you can't say everybody was like that because it wasn't. It was like when people get around together, they tend to like each other because we're dope, we're cool. Like I think that was part of God's play. It's like the irony is you're actually attracted to people that are different than you. That's the irony in our DNA. It's like it wants us to like expand and intermingle. Like, and I've seen it all my life. Like, this is what I mean. It's just something that's like built into the play to keep us together. And that's what I'm trying to get at, where it's like, you know, I think you would say, like, I even heard this argument from like a black man, for example. He was like, when Reagan and their administration invented crack and brought it into our neighborhoods and then arrested us for it, plus like post civil rights, they were trying to steal our women, as in make black women dependent on white men and the state rather than dependent on the black colony that existed really before then, black colonies in these places that Nixon famously called them. So from their point of view, it's like, yeah, there is a sense, and especially like when you're a conquered people, you know, who didn't really voluntarily choose to be in this position, you know, I don't think like that, but maybe like the OGs did. Yeah, you're definitely gonna feel a type of way about like people trying to kick you out of your homes and then essentially have your children dependent on them. So it is kind of like a complicated thing because no, women are not property, but what Tucker was trying to articulate was he's like, if you ever notice this, men care a lot. This is like a general statement. I know it's not true for everybody, but I know it's certainly true for me in my life. It's like um men have like this need to want to please women. We want to show off. We want to be like peacock energy. Like I really do feel like we're like that. Like we're one of those animals, we can't really tell it exactly, but like those birds that like the men have like flashy like things like that to like be attractive to the women. And I do think that that's true in human beings, and we don't really can't put our finger on it because we're so complex. But he's like, we're obviously bigger and stronger, and we can you know, we can hurt our partners very easily. Like, you know, a lot of people do. But um, the thing that's meant to fight against that is the sexual urge. You want to make love to this person
Mhm.
and your need to want to please her. And that throughout your marriage or throughout your relationships, and you can even apply it to your male friends too as you're able to develop this, like that is like the nature that we can approach with like even all of creation and God and to a greater extent is that like if you're gonna approach, and I found this in my own life, like when you approach others or you approach maybe a spiritual practice with sort of a a desire to please God rather than be like, I need this and this, like I need this now, like I need this, get this all done for me, like, you know, like rather or more so being like, what can I do? What would I do that would please you? What could how could I approach and not just God or just this person? What could I do to Musafa that would please her? What could I do?
That's a very bhakti approach is what can I do to
Yeah,
please, right? How can I serve? What can I do
there you
to
go.
enchant? What can I do
Yeah.
to like almost love and be in an intimate relationship with God?
Yeah. The intimacy, oh, the Scorpio, it's like what is the highest calling of our intimacy? Um yeah, what are we meant to be intimate with? What does it really mean to be intimate? Like, you know, you can't be intimate thinking like about how you're gonna get satisfied through this intimate interaction, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so that's what Tucker was trying to articulate, and that's what I would say that, you know, I think that was a strong argument where it's like you're not meant to be like manhood, this quote unquote toxic masculinity is just that thinking you're meant to like stand on the world and dominate it and feel like that's what it means to be powerful is to be like this strong king energy that everyone has to bend the knee to. But Like, that's why I love, like, these Eastern scriptures, and even, like, even some of the earlier like, European, like, leaders, like, they were
Mhm.
master servants, like,
Yeah.
servants, like, their thought process is, "How do I serve? How am I always gonna be able to serve? How can I always how can I please that with which I'm serving, not serving through my own gratification, not serving the way that I wanna serve, but serving in a way that'll please this person that's been placed in front of me?" And, realize that that is, like, being flexible, learning how to, like, navigate that space of serving with the intention to genuinely please another person, like, not just please not just please, like, the naughty things, but really be gratifying, and like you say, sometimes that means you're not gonna be liked, sometimes that means a little bit of friction, sometimes that means you need to wake up on "What's going on?" Like, "This isn't" "What's going on?" Like, and really that dance is, how do you have that flexible backbone where you are always trying to please that person, but not in a way that you're being a people pleaser, really in a way that you're actually pleasing that higher, you know, yeah, that whatever that higher vibration is in the moment. How can you bring this moment to that? Um,
You've
and then at
talked
the
a little
same
bit.
time,
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I wanna say one last little thing is, like, and at the same time, yoga's like, that's also a part of the game, is, like, trying to manipulate your surroundings, trying to do this, like, all these types of things, like, you can do it, but also realize, like, it's also part of the game, and it's only being allowed by that God that you're trying to please anyways.
Um, I know I've mentioned the Tirukkural before, and the Tirukkural is a very interesting South Indian, Tamil text. Um, one of the things that always stuck with me so much when we were studying it when we were young is there's this phrase that says, "The wife who treats her husband as Lord, at her request the rain will pour." And this idea that, like, it is within treating your spouse, and it doesn't, in today's world, it doesn't necessarily have to mean the woman. There's also lots of, guidance about how the man should treat his wife.
Yeah.
Um, but the one when you see that godliness in your spouse, it's like you almost get, like, special powers. Like, the whole universe starts to bend itself around you because of that dedication and that devotion to this person in your life. And so God does not have to be your devotion to God does not have to be some formless, nameless, or even formed, uh, separate person, but that devotion that you have towards godliness can be to your spouse, it can be to your
Mhm.
partner, it can be to your best friend, it can be to whoever you love. That bhakti can be, um, uh, expressed towards a physical person for you.
Mm.
And that's one of the really cool things about the bhakti path is the bhakti path doesn't say you have to, like, be worshiping a statue or a picture or
Yeah.
something. The bhakti path says you can choose your partner, and your husband or wife can then become that expression, and you see God in everything they do, everything that they are, everything, and you just want
Mm.
to serve them and love them because all you see in them is the God. You don't see
Mm.
anything but the godliness in them, and so you're just constantly, like, just pouring that love that you have for God and that service that you have for God and just showering it all over your partner. And I love that about bhakti, and I love that also about the Tirukkural and the way that, so many of the yogic texts or a lot of the yogic stuff is, uh, so much of it focuses on swamis and renunciation and all these things in the modern world. And so I love the ancient texts that go back towards, living a householder life. And that's really what the Tirukkural is so much about is like, how is it to be a householder? And so the fact that you can just
Mm.
be the greatest yogi, you can attain enlightenment, you can win the game, you can do all the
Mm.
things just simply by seeing God in your partner. That's pretty cool. That's a
My
cool way.
goodness. It really is. And oh my goodness, I remember in church growing up, it's like, they would always emphasize, like, God comes out through praise, like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's Yeah, like you have to praise like that. I was thinking, I actually wrote down, and I was like, I was wondering what's will, like what's the reason for why we consider free will, and I was like, really, it's like it's to make that decision to like in the moment to be like, okay, where do I want my headspace to be? Like, how do I want to view my partner? Do I want to view my partner as a nuisance or as, you know, a queen, an angel queen, a leader, or, just a divine expression? And it's interesting. My batteries, I have a new computer and it's big. Like I said, it has like 29% left. It had like 90 when we first started. So just so you know, we might only have like 10 minutes left. But what, what,
We're rounding
what
it
I'm,
up. We're rounding it up here. This is
what, yeah, what you seek, you'll find, that when and seeking is sort of like, it's really a point of view. Like, there's treasure here, like right here in this moment. Like, it's here. Maybe I can't articulate it, but it's here. Maybe in retrospect, I'll see it more clearly, but living in that space of constant, like, this is God speaking to me
hmm
through you. And what I found is like, Swami Chachidananda said this all the time. Like, if you're not a spiritual dude, fine. Dedicate your life to serving humanity, which is the most dexterous expression of God, you could say. Um, when they asked him what are the highest of the commandments, Christ said, "Love God and love your neighbor." Like,
It's pretty simple.
Um, it's pretty simple. So he's like, and they like, it's like this. It's like you'll start to see, and I found that like loving my wife has helped me love others, right? Like loving God helps you love others in that same way, right? Like I love my dog. I have an Akita. She's tough. Like so, I can love Rottweilers now. I can love pit bulls and everything in between now. Thank God. Like so, I think that's what it's meant. Like, oh, if you can love this tough woman right here, like yeah, she's fine. I don't know why these pretty girls get this privilege, but they do. And with that privilege comes great responsibility on their part. And for us, they're gonna get like Sava. When you said something, she reminded me of something she said when we first got together. She was like, "I'm a baddie. Like I just get given stuff, please." Like and then then her father definitely helps, right? Like, and she's Muslim, like from that background where women are precious. Women shouldn't have to touch nothing and their man should be like they should be buried in diamonds, like you know what I mean, like or he should be working 90 hours until he can, whatever. Like so that was very much like her background, right, with those types of values. So um anyway, so she's like, yeah, I wasn't attracted to you because no, you were, yeah, you went to Virginia Tech, you had a house at 23, Quentin. Like, don't forget that. Like, it is attractive. We're talking about those like sex novels. A lot of the time, that actually got brought up in this conversation with Nick Fuentes in depth, actually. And those are rich dudes a lot of the times, or they're strong dudes. They're not like, yeah, I'm over here doing this, but yeah, it's, they're the stereotypical idea of what like a strong, powerful man is. And like so all I'm trying to say is like what I found is that like when I approach life as like, okay, maybe like this person, this my wife, is the most concentrated form of God being able to speak to me. He can't. He has I have dogs and other things. He can't like he can't like control the he can, but he doesn't always have to control the loudspeakers and give me advice. Like it might just be Safa going, don't do that, that's too much. Like, or be like, that might be God speaking to
Yeah.
you. And instead of you fighting it, oh my God, she talks too much, she nags too much, this, that, blah, blah. Why don't you support me? Why don't you believe in my vision? Why don't you trust my leadership? That all the stuff that like I'm speaking for millions of guys, billions over the generation of all of us. Be like, nah, son, you're not done. You're not done. You're not cooked enough. Like you got more work to
Mhm.
do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you have more things to consider. You got some developing to do. And um because I love you and I mm,
Because I love you.
so that's it. That's bhakti.
That's it.
Yeah.
'Cause I love you.
She does. He does. Your parents,
Yeah.
you know. So, any of you guys out there or anybody that feels like, "Damn, like life is beating me up." It's like, "No, it's not. It's sharpening you. It's rounding your edges, um, and really making you more beautiful." And you're talking about like, we were talking about beauty earlier, like, you know the girl that gets the most? That ugly grandma who's done everything for everybody.
Yep,
That 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 loves everybody,
yep.
that has matured to the point where, you know, yeah, that blinding, mature, womanly love that, like, only
Yeah.
the OGs can really give, you know, because 'cause they've been through so much, and they've been through so much friction that, like, "Man, I've been beat 7 times, I've been shot at, I've been strangled, I've been do this," like, "You think you saying something to me is gonna make bother me? Like, come on now." Like, I love you too much for that, so, even when I think about my grandma, I was like, "Grandma's kinda tough, like, golly gee, like, she's kinda rough around the edges." It's still like, I don't know, it's still all a part of that, and maybe you can expound on, like, the role of nature, like, I remember Swami Satyananda mentioning, like, proc proc prakriti or nature is, like, sort of like scrubbing us clean. So, um, yeah. Anyways, any that's all I had to say on that.
I think that kinda rounds us out, like, really beautifully because it all comes down to that love, and that's one of the
Mm,
beautiful things about the bhakti path is, like, if that path resonates with you, if you are somebody who responds in that way, it's like they say in some ways it's like the quickest and almost like easiest way to get there because
mhm,
love is something we all have the ability to access, and all we can cultivate that within ourselves. It's sometimes, it can be more challenging in some ways than sitting and meditating or, sitting and reading spiritual books or even performing action, but it can be done anywhere, anytime. Like, love is something that you can do everything with love. You can wash a dish with love, you can go to work and be a civil engineer with love, you can take your dog for a walk with love, you can do love, you can fold the clothes with love. Um, it's a really beautiful path that way because it's just so accessible for everybody everywhere, and you're right, grandmas are the epitome of love. If you if you really wanna tap into that love, just think about, if it's not your grandma, I know you that you know a grandma who is
mhm,
just complete and utter love, you
mhm,
know? So, I think, yeah, I think remember, it's just the game.
mhm.
Uh, you can be the witness, and, one of the easiest and fastest ways to win the game is just love. Love, love, love.
You know, hearing you say that, yes, hearing you say that makes me think that we should just leave them with this, like, um, um, tapasya, tapa, accepting suffering without causing it. You could think of that as love. So the need to retaliate is very, very natural and encouraged. um, but when when someone offends you, um, when something happens that you don't want to have happen, either in the present tense or the past tense, maybe you feel like you don't deserve it at all, and all of a sudden something's happening to you that you don't feel like it's happening. Like the act of accepting that and almost letting that fire just kind of burn just for a second and then letting it pass, I found is the only way I've really been able to like grow that heart muscle. It's easy to love your homies. It's easy to love people when you like them, like, but you do more for people the more you're able to withstand those like negative experiences. Like you almost become more grateful for them. And also, I feel like in a very real way, it's like when you let that burning happen, like it's almost like controlled burns. Like there's like brush that's growing up here and on you can't see it in your emotional scape, but I'll use porn as an example, or these like that's I would say that's the opposite of serving your sexual partner. You might have done something in secret that you thought was just a secret, and then all of a sudden something's happening in your life that's causing you what I would say proportional, but might seem disproportional suffering in the moment, but it really was proportional, right? They just didn't know, but it happened. And so you might be going through this thing and it's actually just purifying you. Like, okay, this is actually trimming that grass, almost like imagining your mind like this forest that has all these trees in it and all these plants in it, and some plants have poisonous fruit. And these and all your life you've had these traumas and these things that kept dropping poisonous fruit, self sabotaging or harming others or being manipulative or abusing our gifts or whatever it is. But when you sit there and let that like suffering, that discomfort, moment of discomfort to rise and pass without passing it on, then I feel like that's the only way it really like leaves my system in a real way. And then I can approach people more open-heartedly. And hey buddy. Also just feeling like, okay, you're not gonna die from feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, we feel most uncomfortable because we're fighting that with which we want to have happen. No, we
Yeah.
don't. We don't want to be uncomfortable when we keep fighting it. We keep fighting it, and it's just like that control burn analogy. It's getting bigger and bigger, and God's like, "Oh, I didn't know if you thought it was up to you if this was gonna burn down, but I'm gonna burn it down regardless. I'm sorry, it was gonna happen regardless. So it could either be a huge fall
Yeah.
or a small little mini one. So I think a lot of these things are like fish. Like my boss would always say, problems are like fish. You leave them out, they smell worse and worse and worse. And that mentality of accepting suffering and just letting it kind of burn that away and feeling while it's happening like this is meant to happen. This is for my good. This is helping me be more complete and harmonious with creation, with source. This needed to get burned away so that I could be closer to that source that I'm so in love with, get me closer to my wife that I'm so in love with, get me closer with my nation or my people or my clan or whatever it is that I'm so in love with. Some things need to get burned away. And you can't, if you pass it on, you're almost like spreading the fire and you're making it worse rather than just helping you self, you know, manicure.
Yeah, and if you're somebody who has trouble accessing that heart-centered feeling, there's some really simple things you can do. You can breathe, right? Breathe, think about breathing in love. So inhale in love and exhale fear, hate, whatever you feel like is the opposite of love in your life, then just exhale that out. You can also think about, your heart chakra, which is green. So you can imagine like that green energy building up and strengthening your heart chakra. You prem means love in Sanskrit, so you can, use prem, om prem as a mantra. There are certain crystals that, are particularly connected with your heart and love. Anything that's like rose quartz, um, uh, and oh, there was one other thing I was thinking about that it, um, is a great one for cultivating love. Oh, just anything where you're breathing also and opening
Mm,
up when you're doing your yoga
yeah,
postures and you're doing
chest
chest
open.
opening. So,
Hmm.
like, anything that's gonna open that up. So even like, if you want, you can put like a bolster or a pillow behind you and just lay down on that and just allow your chest to just open and relax into that and just like breathe into your heart. All these things will allow that energy to start flowing through your heart, especially if you're somebody who just traditionally is really closed off or has a difficulty accessing love in your life. Then there's these tools that can help you access that. Um, and just kind of open that energy and have it flow a little bit more freely through your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you all for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And sending love out to all of you today and
Mm.
always. And until we meet again. Om om.
Till next time, Radha. Peace.